Hey guys, it's Christian, Vancouver Realtor, and for today's video, I want to talk to you about the lady, the foreign buyer who lost her full deposit, $150,000, gone down the drain. And this was because she failed to complete on a purchase. This has made the news the last couple of weeks. Very interesting story. And the first thing I'm thinking is, how in the world did this woman not know that there was a 20% foreign buyer tax that's due? And secondly, how did her agent not inform her of this? I mean, this would be like a pilot taking off without having checked the fuel gauge to make sure they have enough gasoline in the tank. So this is an example of you get what you pay for when it comes to real estate services. I mean, if your agent has to be advising you, they have to be full-time professional in the business, because otherwise things like this happen. And so when you follow the case, it's an interesting one. So this is a Chinese buyer, I guess, based in Hong Kong, who did not have her current Canadian permanent residency status. And so she notifies the seller 4 days prior to completion, which is too late in the game, that she can't complete, and she asks for an extension. And the seller says, no, I'm not giving that to you. And often the reason why the seller won't give it to you is because they've already bought something else and they've put their deposit on something else. They don't want to lose their deposit money. So she asks for this, it's denied to her, and the money is basically held in trust. And then the seller sued to have it released to her and won. And it's just an interesting case because the agent here really should have advised her client that, look, unless you have your PR papers in hand, you should not be buying a property because there's a foreign buyer tax on $1 million property. A 20% foreign buyer tax, that's a $200,000. So it's a lot of money to have to cough up. And so obviously this person didn't want to pay that foreign buyer tax, and so she just let her deposit go, which was $150,000. Now, there's a second part to this, and that is that she's lucky if it's only her deposit that she loses. Because if she had done this in 2022, not 2021 when this occurred, in fact, let's say it was in March, and then she later, the seller resold the property in October of this year and sold it at a loss. Let's say instead of 2.9 million, which is reported, the seller only sold for 2.7. The buyer, this Chinese lady, would be on the hook for that $200,000 loss as well, potentially. So you have to be very careful when you're moving forward in real estate. I always say that buying real estate is the second biggest decision of your life, and it's the most important financial transaction. So you want to make sure you've got your blind spots covered, and that's what a really good agent does for you. They let you know what you don't know. Now, in court, the Chinese buyer argued that there was a force majeure or an unforeseeable and unavoidable circumstance allowing her to evade liability. She was saying, hey, I was stuck in Hong Kong and China. I couldn't get out, and so I shouldn't have to be able to complete the contract. Well, I don't have the particulars of the court case. I don't know to what extent the judge would have looked at that or to what extent that was really true. But nevertheless, the judge said, look, that does not absolve you of your contractual obligations, which is you've got to complete when you said you would complete, and she didn't. So you definitely want to be careful. Towards the end of the article, of course, she says that she didn't know about the foreign buyer tax and it was her agent's fault. This is sort of the classic, well, if I can't get it from the other side, I'll have to blame my agent. And so I don't know where that'll go, but this is just, again, an example of you've got to be working with a professional in this business. Something as simple as this, both the buyer and the buyer's agents should have known this. This is one of the very first questions I ask my clients when I sit down with them. If they're not Canadians, I say, are you a permanent resident? So I need to know that. And because of the foreign buyer tax obligation. So if you have comments or questions, leave those below, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.